talking, I don't sweat that. If they don't trust me either, I respect that. But she need down the ride, oh, I bet that. Ooh, I slide for my people, don't forget that. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. Ooh, I slide for my people, don't forget that. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. Ooh, I slide for my people, don't forget that.
Fight going forward.
So I'm gonna be the jerk again. You think that these lazy son of a mothers are gonna be willing to do this? Do you feel as if, I know it's not the pressure's on your back, but at the end of the day, when all these people come and they show up to these Zoom meetings, you believe that some of these people that with their hands out, my own postal family, some of my people, they're gonna say, you know what? I think that we got something going on here. I'm ready to step up. Do you believe that there's gonna be enough people? Because the people today are not like the people of yesterday. They're not gonna fight like they did yesterday. But do you believe that you have it to get these, I'm gonna keep saying it, these lazy son of a mothers doing what they're supposed to do? Because y'all deserve $35 an hour. Everybody deserves that at a minimum. But it's one thing to say, yeah, I deserve $35 an hour. Or stand there with a picket sign and say, yo, let's make this happen, Captain. Can we do this?
I think so.
You think that enough people, and obviously you said there's a few more people that are on your side, obviously making this movement happen, are organized enough and are willing to draw the attention spans of today in just long enough to say, look, we deserve this. Let's make this happen. We need you guys to commit on this Sunday coming up in September. That is 4 months from now. This specific Sunday, we're gonna do X, Y, Z. I need at least X amount of people to say, yes, we will. Can you pull that off?
I think we can pull it off. It's not automatic. That's the thing. It's not automatic that we're gonna launch this caucus or launch a grouping or launch around this concerned letter carrier slate in 2026. It's not automatic that right away we're gonna get thousands and thousands of people. But I think it's definitely possible. And if anything, the popularity of the open bargaining resolution, the Zoom meetings, well, it's only been, last one had 300 people at it. I still think that's a significant step forward from where we were even a year ago. Definitely where we were a few years ago. And so I think it's not automatic that it becomes an unrelenting tidal wave that can take over and transform our union for the better going forward. But I think it's absolutely possible. I'm optimistic, and it's not just blind optimism. The reality of my experience over the last, few months has shown me that this is absolutely possible. We're not going to reach everyone right away, but I think that if something like that was launched, hundreds and potentially thousands of NALC members would be ready to participate. I know I've had conversations with dozens who told me that they would be ready to join something like that. So I think it's absolutely possible. But I think, importantly, the idea, you can't just say, join this group and fight, join this movement and fight in the abstract to change our union. We got to get specific. We got to say, what are we fighting for? What is the purpose of this group? And I think I've got some ideas. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because I want it to be also, it should be a democratic process for how we come up with these ideas. But what are we fighting for? What is a wage demand we're fighting for? What is working conditions demands that we're fighting for? The broader things that we want to implement and see in our union. So I think that would be, can we reach people with the ideas and make them understand that getting involved with this will be worth your time. It's going to make, it's going to be collectively, we can make working conditions better.
And the only way to start that is by people taking a few minutes on a Sunday whenever you have your meetings and just log in. They could just sit there and listen. Something's going to spark their interest. They might type a question. A lot of people like to cover their face, whatever. But that's what they need to do. They need to step up. What are the tangible outcomes have the Build a Fighting NALC Zoom meeting produced so far? I mean, I know that 3-4 months ago, you were only had like 90 some odd people. You're up to 300 in a couple months. I'm gonna keep pushing your cause so long as I feel like it's a good cause. From what you're telling me, this is awesome because I believe that other unions will follow suit. You're following suit with the main unions, and now it's time to implement it with our unions. And everybody's like, oh, you see with the Teamsters, we need to get the Teamsters involved. Well, the Teamsters have people that are willing to get up on a Sunday and do their thing, or a Saturday, or call out of whatever they need to do. Do we have that?
Yeah, I think what have we accomplished so far? So first of all, we got a long ways to go for the kind of union that I think we need to build. But I think we've taken really, really important and pretty gigantic steps forward from January 27th, the day before our first Zoom meeting. First thing it's done, it's brought together hundreds and hundreds of NALC members from across the country who want to get involved and fight for open bargaining and transform our union. I have an email list of over 1,000 people who've signed up for our events, right? There's always going to be a smaller percentage that turn out, but we have over 1,000 people who've at least signed up and said, I'm interested in this.
Right.
Concretely, we've gotten the open bargaining resolution passed in 25 NALC branches from across the country in one state association, right? And I know there are at least 12 who are still in the process of discussing it out, bringing it forward in their branch. Now, how many thousands of NALC members have discussed these ideas, whether online at their stations? Every time someone at my station on the steward, hey, what's going on with negotiations? I always tell, I don't BS them. I tell them, I haven't heard anything. Or this is the very sort of vague update that we got. And then I always follow up with natural requirements of open bargaining resolution. We passed this in branch 9. It's spreading across the country. This is clearly picking up steam. So 25 branches in the state association so far have passed open bargaining resolution. But I think more importantly is that it has changed the conversation internally in our union about what is possible. We don't need to accept closed, secret bargaining. We don't need to accept the lack of transparency. We don't need to accept a leadership that won't engage the membership and mobilize the membership to fight. When I think that members, if they're given a lead, want to fight. They want to, change our lives for the better with better working conditions, better wages. And so I think, really, to me, the most important aspect of this, other than the very real possibility of us fighting for and passing open bargaining at the convention and it becoming union policy, the other very important aspect of this is that it's brought together hundreds of NALC members who have said, I want to change my union. And how many of them actually stand up and fighting on that going forward, it remains to be seen. But I think that we've got a good group, and I think that we've really identified the potential for a real movement in this union.
So you're answering my questions before I get a chance to answer. My next question was, how do these meetings empower individual members? And what feedback have you received from the people that participated? So I think you kind of somewhat answered that question already.
Something I can add to that, though, is it's really inspiring to me. In branch 9, we passed, especially the group that really pushed for open bargaining in branch 9, we said, okay, I think we can't be the only ones. I think there's an opening here across the country. Let's put this forward. And we started doing the Zoom meetings. Now, the people that we've met through these Zoom meetings, I couldn't tell you how many people have told me, thank God this exists. I thought I was the only one. I've made connections and had great conversations with NALC activists who are fighting at their local level, because that's right in front of you. Say, you got leadership, bureaucratic leadership that's not fighting. Let's try to run a team that can take over and run this local battle. Let's run candidates who can actually put forward fight and take up, against management on the working floor and fight for grievance procedures that work, all this other stuff. And then they said, I thought I was the only one here in Michigan, here in Texas, or here in Florida. But to see that there are people across the country who are trying to do the same thing, and that we can connect this and create an actual national movement, because we're a huge national union, that to me, I think is really important. Is that if you think you're the only one, you're not. There are people, thousands of NALC members across the country, tens of thousands in reality, that I think to a union want to fight for this stronger.
So how does the Build a Fighting NALC movement to propose to bridge any gaps between leadership and general membership.
Yeah, I mean, I think it gets a little bit back to what we were talking about earlier a few questions ago.
You know what? I think that question should be answered when everybody shows up to the meeting, the next meeting that you have. Again, I'll give you a chance to think about that question. The question is, how does your initial movement, Build a Fighting NALC movement, propose to bridge any gaps between leadership and the general members? Okay? I want you to think about that, because the general members that just signing in are in for a year, 2 years, they're like, I don't even know what's going on. They need to learn what's going on. How do you guys propose to do that? Think about it.
Little homework. Down in the next meeting. That's great.
Another one for you to think about, which is going to be something that a lot of people have asked. With the momentum gained in recent times, which you kind of mentioned, what are the strategic priorities for Build a Fighting NALC movement going forward? Okay, you need to listen to that again. With the momentum gained recently, what are the strategic priorities for Build a Fighting NALC movement going forward? I think that's a good one for you to address once you get everybody there on that Sunday, because I'm gonna push it. And they want to know this. Last question. What are the biggest challenges facing Build a Fighting NALC movement today? And how do you plan to address them? Not just getting members together, but other challenges that, if I'm just a member, I want to hear what it is that you strategically and how you want to propose it. I keep touching my thing. I apologize. What's going on here? There we go. Sorry about that. And any opportunities, are there any other opportunities that have arisen from the current political or economic climate that the movement is looking to capitalize on? Meaning, we definitely living below our means right now. Everything has gone up in price. Take politics out of it, but just the living conditions. You have people that live out in California. They can't live off of this. They just can't. There's no way, even with their colas, there's no way they can. So there has to be strategic, MOUs placed, or at least proposals placed, so that people in higher cost living areas can match their living. Because, somebody living in Alabama doesn't need to make what somebody's living in New York City, in Boston, Massachusetts, and California, because the cost of living is different. People that live out in Salt Lake City, Utah, they don't necessarily need to have as much postal police monitoring them, because you very rarely hear about crime going on in Salt Lake City, Utah, versus Los Angeles, California, versus Chicago, versus you get where I'm coming from? So there has to be strategic MOUs in place. And how do you guys plan on, you got to have a big team. And the team has to be consistent of your members. I'm just a voice. That's it.
Just for that, I think the biggest thing in this moment that people are thinking about is wages, just like you said. Inflation is, the highest in my life, definitely highest in, I think, since like the early 80s, and for a lot of people. And so I think the fight for raises, for better wages, is absolutely imperative. And I think, a lot of work, I think the amount of overtime that a lot of carriers are working is covering up how little we are actually paid. I've got people I'm in contact with out in California and friends in high cost of living places, and they say that there isn't enough overtime. People are hungry for it, and because they need it, because the reality of inflation over the last few years is really setting in. And I think There's a very real question. I saw the other day the Consumer Price Index from 2019 that showed the difference between 2019 and 2024. The inflation that's happened, prices on average are 19% high. That's on average. So in certain industries and certain sectors, prices are higher than others. And so I think if our raises are anything less than 19%, it's a pay cut that we took. The UAW, when they went on strike and they won raises, they won 25% raises. I think that's something we should seriously look at and say, look, that is a way that you can fight to not just keep with inflation, but stay ahead of inflation. I think these are things that we should explore. But just on the topic of the pay difference,
you giving too much juice to my channel. Early. You know who's going to be wanting this juice? All the members that are going to be there on your Zoom meeting when you have it next time.
That's right. That's exactly right.
This is what they need to listen to. They need to hear. They need to give the feedback to you. I make too much money. I'm rich right now. I don't need no more money. No, I'm just kidding.
Speak for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm shit. But no, these are things that you want feedback from when it comes down to having a live Zoom meeting, because when you address certain things, they're gonna say, hey, you know what? Yeah, well, no, yeah, you're gonna have a bunch of negatives, you're gonna have a bunch of positives, but at least you address it to a live audience versus a pre-recorded audience here.
Unexpected expenses stressing you out? Get the money you need now with Loans for Feds, a program designed specifically for federal employees. Bad credit is not a problem. Application is fast and easy with same-day approvals. Apply now.